islands of Kuwait Bay. This is a big word to say in the Gulf. There's so much diversity here. But Kuwait Bay has some strange anachronisms, some strange dichotomies within it that makes it so unique. Now, it's tough to summarize everything, but I'm going to go very briefly through Kuwait Bay. When I talk about Kuwait Bay, I talk about the fringing island here, Felice, all the way down across through Seabird Bay and Husain. Here is the Shet al-Arab Delta, the very far end of it, so there's fresh water input that comes in. Plays a big role in what goes on in the bay. And already you can see that there's differences in physical characteristics of the bay and its circulation. So like I said, we'd like to go transit across when we're talking about biodiversity from Felice and these islands here down to what's going on at the very end. So on the farther part here, close to Felice, the types of biodiversity you see. On the benthic side, you have some very interesting invertebrates, lots of different types of soft coral. On the demersal side and on the elasmobranch side, you have multiple species of sharks, multiple species of stingrays, and actually this one, to give you a scale, this is about 45 kilo, almost 2 meters in diameter. So the amount of the sizes and the amounts of different types of fauna and flora there are amazing. The other things that have been spotted in the bay: mackerel, sharks, mullet, and shrimp. They form the foundation of the food web there. Amongst other things, sea turtles, whales, dolphins. We'll talk about them a little bit more. So in the middle part of the bay, large schools of mullet and seabirds start to show up. This area specifically, because of the mullet and the shrimp stocks that are present, PATH, Public Authority, has invested a lot in its fish monitoring and enforcement division. This area is off limits for fishing. Recreational now was a recent addition thanks to the cooperation between EPA and PATH. But for many years, this is off limits for commercial fishing of any kind. The importance of this bay is the fact that just about every fish that is commercially important, and most of the fish that are not even, they pass through. Either they spawn here, or they live as juveniles here, or they come to breed. So there's all sorts of activity that involves animals moving in and out of this area. And specifically because of the fact that you have this silty water that's somewhat fresh coming in, mixing, bringing in nutrients, stable, very slow currents and mud flats. You have rocky bottom down here. There's so much diversity that just about every fish that we know passes through it. So like I said, in the middle part of the bay, you start to see seabirds on the shoreline, and you see, our guys making sure nobody touches them. Then when you move towards the inside of the bay, what's going on? Okay. There's some very interesting sanctuaries that were established here, some collaborations between the EPA, KOC, PATH, the one I talked about yesterday. So you have seabirds, amazing variety and quantities of seabirds, some of them migrating, most of them migrating, some of them are local. For example, the flamingos, and I think it was something along the lines of 4% of the world flamingo population comes through Kuwait Bay at one time of the year. It's a significant number of flamingos for such a small area when you're talking about it. I mean, the biodiversity, pound for pound, meter by meter, is amazing. Now, the one thing that I'd like to just, to really show you how important Kuwait Bay is it is host to Megafauna. And this was a wonderful surprise for us. It was a wonderful opportunity to work with it. The megafauna that Kuwait Bay has hosted recently, 3 of them had died. These 3 bride's whales had showed up in the last 3 years, 2 of them last year, and they unfortunately dead. And the one in Felice, I put it here because she's on the very fringes of what we consider Kuwait Bay. So today I want to talk a little bit about Mina, and this some people have mentioned before that they had the same problems. Mina was actually in Kuwait Bay, and she died of a boat collision with one of these big shipping boats. And the propeller cut right through the lower part of her back behind the dorsal fin. And so we went out there. This is part of, these guys were out there right away. So if I can say anything about the monitoring guys, they were out there right away. They notified us at the lab. We came out and looked at her. So she was dead, unfortunately, but we said, a fresh sample is a fresh sample, no matter how it comes in with her lab. So we took her. And it was a big operation to remove her. They, some collaborations between IOC and some other stakeholders and interested parties. So she was extracted from Mina Shreveport, which is where she got her name, Shreveport. And we buried her next to our lab, which is right here. So we can keep an eye on her. And afterwards, this year, the beginning of this year, we started the extraction. So we extracted the whale and extracted the bones, and now she's at this point ready to be articulated and fixed. Now, when I say fixed, these vertebrae here and here is where the propeller had cut right through. So this is a very, very rough end to this beautiful animal, but you can see where the propeller just cut right through her bones. Now, the interesting part, the reason I bring this up when I say megafauna, is as we were going through her tissue, we found two very interesting things. First of all, her stomach content, full to the brim, basically, of mullet, scales, and bones. So this whale was actively feeding in Kuwait Bay. These fish are local to Kuwait Bay. So, this is circumstantial, but it's strong evidence to tell you that this whale was not here by accident. She was here in the bay, she was eating. There were earlier reports a few months earlier, or about a few weeks, so about a month earlier, that there was some whale swimming in the bay. And then we suspect maybe it's the same one. The other point was in the area near to her uterus, we found two bones that don't quite match her. They're not bird bones, we're still doing the investigation, but the working hypothesis after eliminating a lot of things so far is she might have been, pregnant. There might have been a small uterus in there, a fetus. Once DNA and all these things, we're just getting started, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it's exciting nonetheless to think that our little bay is so diverse that not only does it host whales then occasionally coming to feed, but they're actually hosting whales that are feeding too. So with that in mind, I would like to stress the most important species in Kuwait Bay are these wonderful people that go out there every day and they're monitoring it and they're working on this. There's some recruitment, so it used to be endangered species, but they're coming back. I'm also very happy about that. And I would like to thank them and thank everyone. And just keep in mind that this small area is pound for pound one of the most important ecosystems we probably have. Thank you very much.